Hello there and welcome to this vlog of January 2023. And before I get into today's video, just a quick admin point, and I do apologise about all these admin points that I am bringing up in my videos recently, but life is happening around me, so just like to keep the people on here updated. I will be moving house. This house sells on Tuesday the 31st of January. I will then have, and I think I've spoken about this before, so apologies if I'm, covering old ground, but my sale is going through before my purchase for the simple reason that the sale of this place fell through 3 times last year because the housing market is crazy at the moment. So I just did not want to jeopardise the sale. Found a place that I bought like down south, and it was one of those situations where technically you should try to kind of, correlate the deals, but I was just like, no, don't want to jeopardize it. So my purchase, which is kind of well underway, like the conveyancing on it and all the searches and stuff like that, are really quite in the latter stages now. So I would imagine that there'll probably be about a month overlap, but between 3 and 5 weeks or something like that, between me selling this place and getting into the new place. In that interim period, I'm just gonna go. I'll go stay up at my mum's for a week, something like that, and then I'm just gonna get like an Airbnb somewhere, and all my stuff is going into storage. Apart from my work laptop and my suit and a pair of jeans or something like that. But I'm just gonna have no way to record basically, and I don't like to do that anyway. I've seen certain YouTubers will record on their mobiles. No, don't like the idea of that. So unless I can kind of sit and do it in this format, I just won't record. So I won't be doing anything for at least a month, I imagine. But I also just want to keep aware of this, and you'll know this if you've bought and sold houses before. Lots of things can happen. So I might find something desperately wrong with a property and have to pull out. The seller might decide at the last moment they don't want to sell anymore. Things like that. So if that happens, to be frank, it's fine because, not to sound too arrogant about it, but when you've got money, you can just go and fix the problem. So I'll just go rent somewhere for a few months and then buy somewhere else, or I'll just keep extending my Airbnbs and stuff like that. The point is for you guys that I won't be able to record in that time because all my stuff's in storage and it's not going to come out of storage until I've either bought, hopefully, a long-term place, or I'm in some kind of rental accommodation where I can at least record. So the cut of it is, don't expect to see me on here for at least 4 weeks. Probable though, I'd probably say between 6 and 8 weeks if the purchase goes through, because remember, I'll have to kind of get in the house, set up this, I say studio, this is just my work office that I record in. The new plan of my house might be slightly different. I might actually put a dedicated gaming studio in one of the spare rooms, but we'll see what happens. Keep in mind, because I know that I think 90% of this audience is Australian and American. We don't have the houses that you have. Our houses are a lot smaller. I am buying a detached, what is it? Yeah, it's technically 4 bedrooms, but one of them's quite small. So and that's, for me, that's perfectly adequate. But I think most Americans I know live in ridiculous, massive houses, if they own. So I've still got to be a little bit cautious with space because we just don't get the square meterage that Americans and Australians get in terms of property, because we're a very small country, and we just can't, we can't just go farther west than the Americans can. So my intention though is to kind of do something more dedicated to this and to gaming in one of those rooms. At the moment, I kind of do that a little bit here, but I do all the recording in my office. I might kind of combine all that together. So the setup will be quite different. I'm going to try, I'm going to try and get all my minis and gaming tables and stuff like that in one dedicated space. So I'm going to have to sort that out before I record because I don't like doing things ad hoc, and I don't particularly like doing things like in a scruffy manner. Like I don't want to record and there are just blank walls behind me. I think that's quite boring. So at the moment I do put some weird paraphernalia up back there just to give you all something to look at. And for my work colleagues as well, when they're on like Microsoft Teams calls me, that always gets called out. Like, what are those things up there on the shelf? So yeah, so I think I might change that around a little bit and kind of separate out my workspace and my hobby space. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. So this will be the last time you see me in this format. So say goodbye to Little Office. It's kind of I've got mixed feelings about leaving here. I do like this place. The area has gone really downhill though since like COVID. The COVID lockdowns. I think society in a whole is struggling a lot at the moment, trying to come to terms with that. There's a lot of angst. And to be frank with you, I was going to sell this place in 2020. That was my plan. Like, got to the beginning of 2020. I had all the paperwork ready to go to get it on the market. And then COVID hit, and I was like, nope. I don't want to move during that time. I'm just going to camp up here and ride this out. So I'm well overdue leaving anyway. And the opportunity came up because the new firm, well, I say new, I've been there for like 8 months now, but the firm that I work for are predominantly based out in the Midlands and London. So, just going to go down there, I think. Just change of scene, because I was born in Yorkshire and I've lived, I've not been in Yorkshire my entire life. I've lived around, but came back here several years ago, and I don't want to, stay in the same place that I was born. Not sure how common that is with people, but I like to experience different things, and ideally with me, I think when I really kind of I'm at a point where I can take semi-retirement and go into consultancy properly. When you earn really good money doing that in my field. At that point, I would like to move to the US. So, but for now, I'm going to stick in Britain with a terrible weather. Anyway, enough of me. Let's talk about today's topic. So I'm going to do I suppose, a bit of a... It's not so much a contrarian video. I suppose it's a contrarian video to my kind of BattleTech experience, or to how the kind of zeitgeist is across the community. And I'm going to title this video something along the lines of why House Steiner and House Kurita are terrible at engineering, which is kind of counter, I think, to what a lot of people think. The kind of assumption on the Lyran Commonwealth is that they just, they're so rich and they've got so many resources and they're such a big power that they just throw assault mechs into into situations to solve problems. Which is kind of, I suppose, okay, because if you're in an assault mech, that's a lot more survivable than the other power that we're going to talk about here and what they do. So it's not just like they're using their military as cheap, expendable assets. I don't think the Lyrans necessarily are that bad in that regards. Although I suppose their common infantry get a rotten deal, but that's the same, I think, for any infantry in the BattleTech galaxy. But in terms of their mechs, they're not just chattel to throw into a problem. The mechs though, because they've got so many mechs and because they're such a powerful financial force, they can do that. So they can just throw an 80, 90 ton, 95 ton mechs into a war zone and just resolve it just with absolute brutality, because that's what the assault mechs are. But I really want to kind of just give a couple of examples where I think that's a really it's not a correct assumption of the Lyrans. They are actually good at certain facets of engineering. It's just different from the other powers that I'll probably cross-reference it with the Fed Sons and the Capellans as we go through here. Not so much the Free Worlds League. They tend to be, I don't know why this is, I think it might be because they're not a centralized power, but you don't really get much innovation from them in the Succession Wars era, to my knowledge. If it's there, it's not common. It's not so the Fed Sons who have got and the Lyrans are involved in this as well. You know, like creating things like the Hatchet Man and like the Capellans with the Catathrak and the Raven and stuff like that. Like all these like new mechs that came around in around that 3025 era. The Free Worlds League kind of sit out of it, but I certainly will cross-reference to the Fedsons and the Capellans. The other one, and I've done this one purposefully, I'm going to talk about this purposely secondly, so that I can then segue into what's on the screen here, which is we're just going to have a little discussion about the dragon. We're going to talk about House Kurita and the Draconis Combine. Now, they kind of get labelled with, and I've kind of touched on this already, they're not like they're not House Steiner, so they don't have the... I mean, they're a big industrial power, but they just don't throw like assault mechs into there. I don't know if that's an issue of like resourcing or tactics. Probably the latter, I think, because they do tend to favour light mechs, and they have massive success with light mechs as well. I mean, famously, they kind of run circles, literally, when it comes to mechs, when it comes to, like putting things like Jennas on the table, which is a very, very like famous like Draconis Combine mech. It is, other powers do use the Jenna as well, but it's certainly something you associate with the Draconis Combine. Where I think they differ from Steiner, though, it's more sinister. So, like, they tend to, like, just put... the mech warriors for them are, like, expendables. So, why go in with a lance of assaults when you can go in with, like, a battalion of Jennas and Panthers? Because, cheaper to make, bring lots of guns to the table, lots of, like, units, lots of outmaneuvering and, things like that. So they've got a different, like, ethos to the Lyrans, but... Similar kind of thing. I think they do get like tarred with that brush off. Oh, they just not. They don't know how to kind of create good mechs. They just throw meat or metal into the problem and try to fix it. You don't really get that with the other inner sphere powers, really. Like, say like the Fedsons, who are, I suppose if you want to put it, it's most basic. They're kind of the noble bright power of BattleTech, though. Kind of not really. I would say that they've just got a better PR team than everyone else, or they get the PR element more than anyone else. But when it comes to like, the forces, like their military forces, incredibly well trained. It's always been seen in BattleTech. The Fedcom like military are the best military. They've got like the best hierarchy, they've got the best structures, really good training, things like that. Because they don't, and it's kind of a balance. They don't see their military personnel as like, sacrificing the game. But likewise, they tend to kind of favour the medium mechs, which is, I suppose, a nice, like, symbolic balance between the big assaults of Steiner and the lights of Kurita. Because the medium mechs, they do have more survivability, but they are faster. So it's, and that's how I suppose you choose your power in BattleTech. So they've each got their own little flavour. It's certainly why I gravitate towards the Fedsons, because, well, I am a bit of a noble bright player anyway. I don't particularly like playing the bad guy, but I love medium mechs. Like, they are my mechs of choice, especially things, ironically, like the Vindicator, which I adore. It's not my favourite. I've said on here multiple times, my favourite mech is the Catapult, and that is a heavy mech. But the Catapult to me, the Catapult acts like a medium mech in a lot of ways. It's like a fire support mech that's jump capable. So it's it's a 65 tonner as well. So it's not one of the big like 75 ton tank mechs or anything like that. So it's just to me it's a medium mech with better armor basically, and a bit more ammo or a bit more firepower, things like that. So it's each their own. Like, you'll meet plenty of BattleTech players who play everything, or you'll meet people who just predominantly play heavy and assaults. They don't usually do too well on tabletop though, because I think the meta within the game is really skewed towards lights, mediums. But again, that's my own opinion. I've just had more success with that, and I think that's why I gravitate towards it. Anyway, so that's kind of set it up for, how Steiner and House Kurita here. So I've got 3 examples that I'm going to talk through. One from Kurita and one from Steiner. Just in regards, like, why I think these... the assumption that they are terrible engineers is incorrect. But I think I'm going to give you my theory first on why I think it doesn't, or why I think that is a prominent zeitgeist like attitude in BattleTech. And I think it's because neither power in the succession wars. So I'm not, anything that I'm saying here, you can kind of comes to an end point when the Helm memory core is discovered, because after that point, everyone starts to be able to redevelop mechs and do really interesting things. So keep that in mind. Like when I'm talking here, this is predominantly in and around the 3022 to 3027 era, in and around that time, until the Great Death Legion find the Helm memory core, and then there's just this explosion of like new technologies that comes around. Before that, though, like in the Succession Wars, like famously, there were like no new mech designs until like, I think if you can go back to something like the Merlin, which I think is a 3010 mech, but and I'm really just going off my memory here, but I think the Merlin is a mech that was developed by the Wolf's Dragoons. I could be wrong in that, I might be thinking about another mech, like the Marauder 2 certainly is. So that is, actually, we talk about the Marauder 2. It's probably a better example, because that is a mech that you associate with the Wolf's Dragoons. So basically, though, but remember, the Wolf's Dragoons are basically a clan force that infiltrate the Inner Sphere to do scouting missions for the clans. So they can create what they want. They've got like technology way in advance of the Inner Sphere, so I don't really count those mechs. And there are several of them that kind of come around, but it's created by a mercenary force, and I don't think a lot of them are accessible to the Inner Sphere powers anyway. Like they even develop things like Omni vehicles. So is it the Badger, I think, which is like an Omni infantry transport vehicle. Look, when I'm saying all this, I'm going completely off my memory, so I could be completely wrong in all of this. But that's just flash memory of what it is. So there are new things, is what I'm saying, in BattleTech, but you can't really count the Wolf's Dragoons. They sit outside of it. In terms of the Inner Sphere power, though, Inner Sphere powers, there are two things where you get a lot of new developments. One is Project Phoenix, so that's the development of like the Hatchet Man. That's something that kind of operates out of New Avalon, so the Fed Sun's like capital world. You've got it's like the Institute of Science there is like really into this, and they are I suppose like the leading light across the Inner Sphere in regards like new tech, and the Hatchet Man is like the poster child for that. Keep in mind, though, give them the credit, how Steiner are absolutely involved in that project. It's kind of a joint like technology sharing project before the FedCom Accords. So you have to keep that in mind, that like there's these mechs that are getting created predominantly happen in not just mechs, but like new technology as well, things like double heat sinks, and they bring certain like weapons back slightly early. They get like the redevelopments, and then the Helm memory core thing comes along, and they've just got blueprints to a lot more stuff after that. In terms of the other power that's doing this is the Capellans, and I've said multiple times on this channel, how much I love like Capellan ingenuity. They are phenomenal. You can argue like the original Raven that gets constructed isn't great, but it eventually becomes like a really like powerful recon mech, does the Raven. The Catathrax, 70-ton like tank mech as well, which is developed because the Capellans just do not have that many heavy mechs, especially like tank heavy mechs. When you talk about Capellan heavy mechs, you tend to talk about things like the Catapult, which is where the factory is in Capellan space. But what I'm saying, like that takes some ingenuity to do that in this era. It's something that is not common in the Inner Sphere for like hundreds and hundreds of years. And then you go to the Draconis Combine and the Lyrans, and they've not created any new mechs, right? Again, give the Steiner a pass, because they're kind of involved within the like Project Phoenix stuff in terms of what like the Fed Sons are doing with the Hatchet Man. But let's be frank about it. That project is very much like how Steiner's industrial power, which is fine, but they're kind of really requiring like the Fed Sun's scientific ingenuity to do it. Like Steiner couldn't have done that on their own. Legit argument to say Fedcom couldn't have the Fed Sons couldn't have done it on their own as well, because they probably didn't have the industrial might to kind of just keep trialing and erroring the mech. The Capellans, though, usually they are without a doubt the smartest form of like power within BattleTech. really kind of, they utilize the limited resources that they have and optimize it, and you can tell that by the mech designs, and then they have new mechs coming out of that, and I think it's that like necessity breeds ingenuity type thing with the with Capellans, because they are the smallest power. They've got like constantly got like the Fed Sun's threat on the door. So it's a complex situation as to why some powers develop and some don't. But what you do get in Kurita and in Steiner is you get like redesigned mechs that are very, very good in and around this time period. So you're talking like 3025 era. And I don't think that's enough that gets highlighted. I think like it's very easy to look at the Capellans and the Fed Suns and say, well, of course they do everything, all this new technology. What are Steiner and the Kurita doing? They are doing things. They're just using what they have currently got on the books. And I'm going to talk about 3 of those mechs here today. So let's get into it. And what I'm going to do is I'll show the original, like in the Dragon here. This is the original Dragon from 2754. I'll discuss a little bit about it and all its flaws, because there are many. And then I'll talk about you can see it there, you might not be able to read that tab because it might be a bit too small, but I'll just zoom in a little bit on this. Up at the top here, we're then going to talk about the Grand Dragon. So this is the DRG Mark 1G. And that's the reimagined version of the Dragon that the Draconis Combine came up with. Very quick 30-second history on the Dragon. It's a very interesting mech because it's a mech that's terrible, right? Like, it's just not very good at anything. I think its armour is okay for a 60-ton mech. But apart from that, it's a badly designed mech, which was quite an interesting mech because it came like at the latter end of the Star League era. So, which is quite interesting. You always associate like really amazing mechs with the Star League era. Dragon is certainly not an amazing mech. The lore, if I remember correctly, I should have checked this before I started recording. I believe it was like spec'd out as a blueprint to replace the Shadowhawk, but it got rejected by the Star League, and you can kind of see that in its loadout, right? Like that loadout is very similar to a Shadowhawk. I think it just the Shadowhawk obviously has the SRM2 and an LRM5, so it's just giving it out there to an LRM10. It was rejected by the Star League, and it was picked up by House Kurita. So going into the Succession Wars, it really is their equivalent of the soldier mech. So it's what it's really, really common in the like Draconis Combine military. There are plenty of mechs that are like that within within every force. So for instance, the Vindicator is the Capellan soldier mech. I'd say that the Enforcer is the Federated Suns soldier mech. There's an argument to say that it could be the Blackjack as well. I think with the Blackjack though, it's a very common mech. Like you find it in most powers anyway. So, but the Enforcer it's always been a mech that I've associated with the Fed Suns. So you do get mechs that are like not specific to a power, because you have things like salvage. But for instance, would you probably don't find many dragons at all in like the Free Worlds League, neck of the woods, because the Free Worlds League literally cannot be at war with Kurita. Really, they can be, but I mean, they don't share a border, right? Like traditionally, like say Kurita and Steiner do, and that's why all there's a lot of tension there. I suppose it is more complicated. You're talking about, I don't want to go into too much into this. There's like the 3D element of space as opposed to the 2D map. But generally speaking, the Federated Suns and the Lyran Commonwealth are basically always in one war or another against the Kurita because they share the borders. So you probably will find dragons in both the Lyran and the Davian forces. The Free Worlds League, though, the only way they'd be able to get it is through like just getting a blueprint and making it in one of their factories or buying them. And then you'd argue, well, why would they do that? Because it's not a good mech. So, if you've got, and don't get me wrong, like I'm not some kind of like law fascist. Like if you've got a company of dragons in your Free Worlds League force, then great, each their own. But the Dragon it is an interesting one because it was picked up by Kurita and then like mass created, so it has got a very interesting history. Let's just cover its like I suppose it's chassis, quirks, and everything else first. Should say before I do this, I am using the wonderful Flex Sheet apps. I absolutely adore these. I've actually done a specific video on them. Well worth checking out if you play classic BattleTech, because really useful in game. So the first thing to note here, it's 60-ton mech, and it's a 5.8. Right, that's fast for a 60-tonner. Your heavy mechs are in and around the 4.6. So this is a mech that can move. So, and that's, I suppose that coupled with having like solid levels of armor is where the benefits of this mech stop. And I like that about it. I mean, the dragon has a lot of personality. I love how it looks as well, because it's basically like, it's just like a big box on legs, right? And you can tell, because it's a soldier mech, and this is why I love BattleTech so much, because there's so much thought put into stuff like this. If you had like a soldier mech, you would not make a mech that's like really complex and got loads of, different like design chassis quirks and things like that. You just like, no, just literally armor, guns, pilot, go, because you want as many as possible to get into the mix. And that's really important to say. It gives it a real charm. Like, it doesn't have like it doesn't look like other mechs that that have like, say, a lot of character to them. Like things like, I don't know, like the Centurion, which has got like the, it looks like a bipedal human being, right? Like the dragon it's just like a big box on two legs that just runs around the battlefield, and that I love about it. It's very, very fun. This is the problem with a dragon, though, and it's a major problem, is that it doesn't know what it wants to be. It wants to run around the battlefield, but it's got decent armor. But then it's got this like weird thing where it's very undergunned, really, especially in one of its weapon placement options, and it's just one of those situations where you're like, okay, I see what they're trying to do here, but it's on the wrong mech, right? Like, it's like a 60-ton, it wants to be a tank mech, it wants to get in close because it's fast and it can close the opponents down. It's got decent levels of armor for a 60-tonner. But then you can't go too close because its two main guns have got minimum range penalties. So you've got an AC-5 and an LRM-10. So you're using it as a sniper mech, but you really want to get in there and do some damage. It's a mech that just has no like symbiotic relationship with itself. You can also see its other major like design problem on the guns is that it's got one medium laser in the front and the left arm, and then one in the rear, which is, I mean, I'm not a big fan of rear weapons anyway, although they are cool and they can be useful occasionally. I think when you've got a mech that is this quick, it doesn't need it. Like, you need rear weaponry if you're on like a 3-5 assault mech and you've got like little light mechs getting into your rear arc, then that can be useful. But for this, you're not necessarily going to get outmaneuvered with a dragon. It's a very, very strange design choice. And then that really kind of kills its ability to do any tanking, because if you think about it, like you can't tank with an LRM-10. It's pretty much impossible given the minimum range penalties. Your AC-5 as well, which is like a low damage dealing assault cannon, or autocannon, sorry, and then you've basically got one consistent weapon that can get up close and do damage. So you can do 5 points of damage. I suppose you could say, okay, well, it's okay for kicks. So if you get right up close, you can go in and do 12 points of damage on a kick, which is fine for a 60-ton mech, so that's just what it does. But it's just a weird mech. Like, it just has there's no consistency to it. Like, you want one or the other, right? So you want, like, take the armor out, make it quick, and just give it, like, fill it with, like, LRMs and long-range AC weaponry, and let it do a heavy sniper type role. Or you basically keep the ammo levels the same, or, drop it down to a 4.6 and make it into a tank, but then you kind of lose, I suppose, the maneuverability thing on it is its unique thing. So it's just a lot of 60-ton mechs suffer from stuff like this as well. Like, the second you put a better engine in there, you just lose so much like weight capacity to go and put on there what the mech needs to be. Now let's talk about its other major dramas, which are its placement on its critical hit table, which is pretty catastrophic, to be honest. So that weapon loadout is very, very ammo heavy. So we've got 2 tons of LRM-10 ammo, and 2 tons of AC5 ammo. Both ridiculous. Like, you don't need 2 of them. 1 would suffice. And then, I don't know, maybe give yourself 2 other like medium lasers to put on the front so you can actually use it as a little bit of a tank mech when you get up close. That is this isn't a bad design choice. This is a catastrophic design choice, and almost makes the Dragon unusable on tabletop. This is bad enough, right? Like, you've got the medium laser here. You've got a 2 in 3 chance then, if you take a crit to the left torso, of basically coring the mech through an ammo explosion. And on the right, you don't even get that. It's a 100% chance of a crit going through onto that torso, of going and just exploding 40 points of AC5 ammo, which you just don't need anyway. This mech, I would put it into the unusable category in classic BattleTech. It's just horrendously bad. Again, outside of its armour being okay, the only other benefit of it is its heat management. You can see it's a cool running mech, so it can only ever do it's not. It's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, okay. It's a +1 heat mech. So if you alpha strike, you do 1 point of heat. So that's good, I suppose. But if your mech's just going to get exploded like at the drop of a hat, what does that matter anyway? And then you can't really do enough damage with it to justify its battle value. It's just a walking car crash of a mech. It's terrible. And it's a very odd design. It comes out of the Star League era. And again, I'm saying it's terrible. Yes, it is. If you break down all its stats and quirks and everything else, it's rubbish. But when you factor it into the lore and what the Draconis Combine are doing with it, which is they're literally just putting like expendable mech warriors in there to go and, be the heavy solution when presumably they need heavy mechs on battlefield to kind of counter Steiner's assault lances or whatever else. In that respect, like, you can see exactly what this mech is trying to do. It's just very, very bad at it. So there you go. That's the original Dragon. That's the 1N. What then happens is, you see the year on this, it's a 2754 mech. If we go into the Grand Dragon, this is the 3024 equivalent. And now they call it the Grand Dragon. I think it's like a marketing thing, I'm guessing, presumably because the original Dragon is so bad, they're like, God, we need to absolutely rebrand this. It's not really, though. It's just a different version of the mech. It's just the 1G. It's exactly the same, like, chassis. It's just they improve things on it immeasurably and turn a walking coffin into an okay mech. And if it's a soldier mech, all you need really is okay. If you're rocking a company of Draconis Combine mechs, and they're probably if you go down the lore path, you probably will have like a Lance of Dragons in there. Use the 1G. If you care about doing anything on tabletop, absolutely keep away from the 1N. It's disastrous. So let's just have a look at this improvement. And this kind of goes back then to my thing about the Draconis Combine. Just because they didn't create like the Hatchetman or the Catathrak or the Raven doesn't mean they aren't doing things in this era. They are. And remember, this is before the Helm Memory Core, so this is all off their own like intuition and redesigning things and trying to kind of optimize what they've got. So let's have a look at so first thing, a really important point to note, it's still got the same speed. I think as well, develop that speed thing a little bit. I think it's actually really important that a Draconis Combine force have maneuverability and speed, especially if you're going down the lore path and you're using a lot of light mechs, because what you don't want is a big hulking 3-5 like mech that just can't keep up with the action, right? It's not going to be good for any of you. So the speed on the Dragon is symbiotic in regard to the wider lore, and if you're using like a certain lance type or a company type when it comes to the Draconis Combine. Now, straight away here, we see a massive improvement because they've stripped out the AC5 and they've put on a PPC, which in this era is the best weapon, I'd say, in BattleTech. I don't know, is that even debatable anymore? The AC10, I love the AC10 as well. But I think the PPC, just on the grounds of its range, coupled with the fact there's no ammo in an era where you get very bad ammo explosions, it's not like a Gauss rifle either, where the PPC takes takes a crit and it does damage to your mech. So all in all, an incredible weapon, the PPC. It's the only like component really in that Succession War era that's what I'd consider like space magic. Obviously, the lasers it's not technology that we have or that we can use like they do in the BattleTech universe. So I suppose all of the energy weapons are space magic to some extent, but the PPC is basically like a walking hadron collider that shoots. So it's amazing. So straight as soon as you put that on a mech, you've made improvements. It obviously weighs quite a bit, but just in terms of its damage output and its range, it's a very, very good weapon and really does hold up. Like, for the Inner Sphere, like I'd go for a regular PPC over the Inner Sphere ER PPC because that does 15 points of heat, which is always really difficult to manage on a mech. This one only does 10, so that's better. Still got the LRM-10 on the centre torso. This is where one of the major improvements are, though. They have put on another medium laser at the front. So they've still got the rear one, which again I would question, but the point is they've put another like medium laser on the front, which I know it's only 10 damage, but when you couple that into the fact that it's a 60-ton mech that has a decent kick on it, you can go into your opponent and basically shoot the M laser with with the arm and then kick your opponent. So you can potentially do so it's on the right torso, on the left arm, sorry, the medium lasers. So you can potentially do, upwards of 20 damage getting up close. So it's now ticking that box of doing what it really wants to do, which is getting fast to an opponent and give them a good leathering. And then, to coincide with that, you've got the PPC and the LRM-10, which can basically, so you can skirmish with it. In the knowledge that you're not just going to kind of get lost in the mix on the battlefield, because if someone gets too close to you, you might be in trouble. With this, you can tank more efficiently. Not great, but it's more efficient. And then you've got the option of either, giving, skirmish attacks to the enemy as you get in up on close. And, something like a Lance of Grand Dragons or the 1G, which I should probably call it. I think the Grand Dragon is just a marketing strategy. The 1G has, if running alongside other dragons, this would work quite well because you could use 2 as tanks and 2 as skirmish mechs. And if you're playing like campaigns and you've got all those kind of added factors of like, maintenance and salvage and all that stuff, like obviously if you've got, I don't know. I don't think I've ever played a Draconis Combine or as Draconis Combine in a campaign game, but you probably bake things in that, like, if you want to really go down the lore route, that is what it would be. It probably would be a Lance of Dragons. So you can use this one quite effectively. Obviously, though, like the added PPC means extra heat, so we're now kind of operating, and again you've got to be careful how you gauge like a mech's top heat, because you're not going to ever fire the rear medium laser with everything else realistically. I mean, you could, but it's unlikely. So we'll cut that heat out. So we do more heat though than we've got heat sinks here. So you remember the other dragon was a +1. This is a 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So 20, and we only have 12 heat sinks, so we're at a +8 with this mech. That being said though, with correct management you can do quite well on this mech, because I think my idea in this mech would be you'd go in with the PPC and the LRM-10 at range, so that's only a +2. And once you get in there, so you might be able to generate quite a bit of heat. So if you go 2, 4, 6, something like that, and then you'll lose a movement point, but that's fine. But then on that 4th turn, you're then going to start dropping the use of the LRM-10, and maybe not the PPC, but probably the LRM-10. You probably want to drop all your ammo at that point as well. And then you can go in, for physical attacks and the 2M lasers. And, if it looks like you're going to lose the battle, or you really need to kind of whack an opponent, then you start bringing the PPC back into it. And yes, that will generate more heat, but that's always the penalty in BattleTech, or that's the money mechanic of the game, right? Like these points here, these 30 points are your cash to spend, right? That's all this is. Let's have a look at its critical table loadout anyway, because we still have issues with this, but I do think it's a lot more manageable. So let's just go through this. First of all, you'll note there's no more of that suicide right torso. Great, let's drop the AC5 ammo out, obviously. We still do have a problem though with the LRM-10 ammo. We've got too much, so 24 points is far too much. You only need 12. If you are using this mech, then the best thing to do is just to empty on the first turn. Just get rid of one of the ammos. Why that's really good is because you see, when this is full, when it's a 12-12, you've got 2 in 3 chance of taking a crit there and basically destroying the mech. Now that you've only got a 1 in 3 chance, because if you take a crit to the LRM-10 with to the ammo box with no ammo in it, nothing happens. It just gets soaked up. Now, obviously, you might be in a position where somebody looks out and hits more critical rolls. In that case, you're in trouble. But generally speaking, if you go by the law of probability, if you take a crit, you're only going to take 1 crit. Not even that. I think you need an 8 to get 1 crit. So chances are you'll roll a 7. So but even so, it's still dangerous. So my advice would be you basically only want to shoot 3 or 4 times in the game with the LRM-10 ammo, and as soon as you can get away with it, just empty. So you might have gone down to, let's say you're at 8 points of ammo here, and then on that 5th turn, just empty it all out. And then you're playing with a safe mech. Also, little advantages as well, and I know it's kind of a small thing, but it's got the LRM-10 in the centre torso, and these can soak up damage. So you've got a 1 in 6 chance of taking dead hits then, or soaking up the hits as opposed to going through to your fusion engine or your gyro. It's a solid mech. I mean, there's no it's relatively cheap in battle value. It does a job okay. Massive improvement on that original Dragon, and again, all testament to the fact that the Draconis Combine are not sat on their hands at this point doing nothing. Right, that's the Dragon. Let's get on to the other 2 mechs that I want to talk about. The first one is the Zeus, and this is obviously very, I suppose, famously a House Steiner mech. Defiance Industries, I believe. So yeah, very much a Lyran Commonwealth mech. The original, I've got to say this right off the bat, the original is not that bad. It's an 80-ton mech. It's okay. It's very much a Succession War era mech, though. You see, it's 2898, so they're just doing the best they can at this point. 4.6, which is actually pretty good speed for an 80-ton assault mech. Certainly not terrible anyway. It's got a large laser, an AC5, and it's got a medium laser and an LRM-15. And it's got 1 medium laser in the rear. Not too fussed with that on an assault mech. I think they can be useful. It's only 1 ton. I'm fine with it. Right? I know a lot of people really, really despise it and would rather just turn it round. But for me, I'm like, okay, I understand. It's fine. I think it gets problematic if you start putting heavy stuff in the rear facing. If you're putting SRM6s and things like that, you're like, why would you bother? Right? And then you get the ammo on top of that. So just 1 medium laser, not a problem. Where this mech suffers on, I'm not going to go through these next 2 mechs as much as I've done through the Dragon, because we're just going to tell you, you've kind of seen my thesis here, and we'll just walk through it. Armour on this mech is, it's under armoured on the torso, I'd suggest, but it's okay. I mean, it's a fast or a fast-ish assault mech. So, do I necessarily want lots and lots of armor? Not necessarily. Where it's got problems though, and it suffers from what the the original Dragon does. Look at this. This is just disastrous. It's got that LRM 15-point ammo, 1 point on the right torso. That is like a walking coffin again. And remember, if you've got, even if you only had 6 points of ammo in there, it's 6 times 15 damage. Which is, a lot, and it will just transfer all the way down into your mech and explode your mech. So if that goes crit, which it's got here, keep that in mind, it's got a 100% chance of going crit if you get a critical on the right torso. So that's a horrible design feature, obviously, so much so that I think once you are in, you might want to use the LRM 15 2 or 3 times and then just dump all the ammo. I think I would, and then I'd just kind of operate on the grounds that I'm fast enough to get in to do pretty decent physical damage, and it's 8 on punches, 16 on a kick. You can use the large laser and the medium laser. They've got no minimum range penalties. Obviously, the auto Cannon 5 does, but I think you kind of want to be using this mech in 2 stages across a game. It's like you're going in with the the 3 long range weapons, and then you're going to want to try and get into physical range. I am a physical range fanboy though, so keep that in mind. Something that you don't necessarily, a lot of players won't be like that. I just always want to be thinking about that latter stage and just going in and thumping the opponent. The AC5 ammo is actually not problematic on this mech. It's got I think it's on the arm for one, and it's only got 1 point of ammo, so it's still not great because it's still going to completely wreck your arm if it goes crit, and it'll get into your into your torso as well. Let's say you get down to 12 points or something like that. It's still absolutely brutal, but I don't know. In fact, no, I don't think it will. I think it'll still just wreck your mech. Any ammo explosion in BattleTech is horrific, basically. Unless you've only got like 1 or 2 points of ammo left, which is almost impossible. What I'd suggest, a way to get around that a little bit, given you could do this with a dragon as well, but it's slightly different because it's there's less weaponry on the dragon. So if you jam the AC5, then what are you firing with that original dragon? An LRM-10 and an M laser? Good luck. With this though, I think you can just keep double tapping this, and I wouldn't care. Like I'd be like, okay, well, if I roll, if you're not aware, there's kind of extended rules on double tap AC weaponry, so you can shoot 2 rounds at one time. That's good. It gets rid of the ammo quicker. So I think you could do that maybe over 2 to 4 turns before you kind of get into or the opponent are either closing you down or you're closing your opponent down. And at that point, just dump the ammo, get rid of it, or you'll probably jam the weapon anyway. So if you roll a 3 or a 4, you'll jam an AC5 doing a double tap. If you roll double 1, it blows up the shell in the gun and destroys the gun itself. But all you get then is you only get 5 points of damage, right? It's just the shell damage. It's not the entire ammo. So that's not too bad. And then you can literally just dump the ammo after that because it's completely irrelevant. And then once you're in that kind of territory, you can see now without the AC5 and the LRM-15, the Zeus is still fast, so it can still potentially do really kind of get into your opponent's physical range and start doing solid kicks. It's also got pretty decent damage levels, so you're going into that. There's 18 there. Sorry, not 18. It's less than that. It's 13. Sorry, because one's in the rear arc. But even then, still with a 16 kick and 13, damage from weapons, that's not bad. That's not bad. It's a badly designed mech, is this? But it's not anything as bad as the original Dragon. It's just you can kind of utilise it, I suppose there is an argument. It's just the Zeus mech is the soldier mech of the Lyran Commonwealth, so it's kind of suffering from the same issues. It's mass produced. Let's just take a quick look at heat management before we move on. So we have got here, we do a total of, is that 22 heat, I think? Yep, 22 heat. We've got 17 heat sinks though, so we're +5. That's actually really good. And obviously, we'd actually negate the medium laser there as well because it's rear facing. So heat management on this original Zeus is really solid, actually. So that's one big benefit of it. So again, it's nothing as bad, but it's still got, you can see, especially that right torso, it's so terrible. It's not like the original Dragon. It's not unusable. It's just problematic. Now, so what how Steiner then do? Again, 3026. So we're in and around that Project Phoenix era. They redesign it, and much like the Grand Dragon, they stick a PPC on there. So that's an automatic win right away. So we've got no more AC5 ammo to worry about, or the double tap issues or anything else. We've got a superior weapon on there now. Pretty much exactly the same chassis. Very similar anyway. It's just got that PPC on there now. It's still a 4.6, so same engine. Let's just have a look. I've been through, the original weapons are almost identical apart from the AC5. If they are identical apart from the AC5 and same locations. Same physical attack damage, obviously, because it all goes by tonnage. So let's just have a look at this in terms of its crit location. So you can see now we're in a much better place. We've got 8 points of ammo with the LRM-15. Now, why that's really good is, first of all, there are 2 heat sinks on there, so you've only got 1 in 3 chance of going crit with the LRM-15. But I'd say the same theory still operates for what I've said all the way about this ammo. As soon as you have expended between 3 and 4 points of ammo, and you might be getting a little bit hot with this mech at this time because of the PPC, which we'll talk about in a second, you take one turn out, you reposition, you run into the woods somewhere, you dump, all your ammo, and then you come back into the fight. Cool, and you've still got really. So let's just get rid of the LRM-15 here. Has it got another ammo point, actually? No, it doesn't. No. So we'll just crit the LRM-15 there just to get rid of it. So you can see then that, you've still got really hefty weaponry on there. So front facing, you've got the large laser, the M laser, and now the PPC. PPC obviously has minimum range penalties, but, no ammo problems, no double jamming problems, anything like that. And as well, I think a 3 minimum range penalty is never such the worst thing in the world. If you can get in that 4-inch distance there, and then if needs be, if you're kind of on your last legs or you're about to force withdraw or something like that, you go in and just charge and get all your physical attacks in. At that point, you're probably not firing the PPC because it's going to be you're probably going to be overheating at that point. But you can still get solid damage in. But as a skirmisher, it's superior to the the 6S, and it's definitely the mech that I see the most on tabletop when it comes to a Zeus. I think the this variant, the 6T, is really quite nice to use. Let's just have a look at its heat management, because obviously it's significantly worse, and it actually has it only has 2 more heat sinks. The Zeus, 17 on the 6S. We're now doing a lot more heat, so 18, 23, 29 heat. Again, we should really say 26, right? Because we don't factor in that rear torso M laser. So 19. So heat on this is significantly higher than the 6S, but I would say every penny expended on that heat scale is worth it to get that PPC on there. So again, great example here of the Lyrans doing something better with an existing chassis. And finally, and this I'm going to have to say now, I think this is the king of the battlefield in that 30-25 era. Basically the end of the there is another succession war to come after this. There's the 4th succession war. But going into that era, the next mech I'm going to talk about is an absolute monster. And it is, of course, the Banshee. The original Banshee, not so much. I mean, I actually did a video recently on the worst mechs in BattleTech, and the Banshee was on that list. And this Banshee, the 3E. So I won't talk too much about it, because it's just suffice to say it's a bit of a trash fire. It's got amazing armor levels, which is just bizarre, because its weapon loadout is then a PPC, an AC5, and a small laser. So I don't even know where to start with that. It's garbage. The only thing you're ever going to be doing with this mech is getting in there for physical attacks and supplementing those attacks with the S laser, because you're going to have minimum range penalties on the PPC and the AC5. I'm going to quickly deal with this one. So AC5 ammo's not a major issue. You've only got a 1 in 5 chance of hitting it, so you just keep it on there. So that's fine. That's actually something that's not horrendous in this mech. It's really over heatsink, so it's a cool running mech. I do and I don't like that. Obviously, it's got heat sinks built into the engine, but you've just got one random heat sink here on the leg, which is good. I mean, heat sinks on the leg are a good idea because they help if you get into water. That's why the heat sinks can basically optimize their efficiency on tabletop. But also, it's good because you have another point to hit on here. So if someone does a crit hit on your leg, it doesn't take out one of these critical 4 actuators or the hip joint, which really kind of destroys your mech's ability to maneuver. So if it hits the heatsink instead, that's better. So you've got it's only a 1 in 5 chance, but it's better than nothing. But I don't know why there's just a random heatsink on there. I mean, put another M laser on there or something just to give me a little bit more of a kick. But there you go. All the to get a mech of this stature, it's a 95 tonner. To get it to a 4.6 just needs a massive fusion engine in it, and that's where all the weight is taken. I'd say this mech is fine if you just play in like and play it like the Charger, right? Like you just want to get up and close to the enemy and punch them. That's it, or to kick them. So it can serve a purpose, especially because of its armor levels. In 3025, this is a bit of a zombie mech. I mean, you're talking. You just look at that. It's got 70 points of armor and structure on its center torso. Like this thing will go forever. It's just a monster, especially in 3025. Like you're going to need a whole host of big hitting weapons to get into this thing. Yeah, so it's a very very odd design. Not much more to say about it other than it's bad. That's it. Then something miraculous happens. So in 3026, so there you are. There's its design date. How Steiner, and believe that this is another Defiance Industries one as well, create what I consider the greatest assault mech ever. No, not ever. In the Succession Wars, it's just such an oddity. Like all those like assault mechs that you know, let's take something like the Awesome, which is a Succession Wars assault mech, 3 PPCs, very solid mech, good armor, and it's cheap as well. It's cheap for like battle value, and it's quite an easy to maintain mech. But it's weird, right? Like you put 3 PPCs on this massive tank mech, so it's got minimum range penalties. It's just, I don't know. There's something slightly odd about how the Awesome operates. This mech though just does like I don't know. It's got like the durability of an Atlas, and it's got like the weapon loadout of, you know, like a mech from the 3050 era. It's just an absolutely beautiful mech in every single way. So let's just go through it and have a look at this bad boy. So massive point here though. It's now a 3.5. So the fusion engine is a lot, you know, less tonnage being given up to it, but that then means you can absolutely fill your boots on the weaponry. So they've basically, that's the compromise that they've made. But then it becomes like the ultimate walking tank zombie of this era. So it's still got the same armor level, so it's still got 70 points of structure and armor on the center torso, but just look at this damage dealing now. It's just crazy. So you've got an autocannon 10. Oops. Reset the zoom there. You've got an autocannon 10. You've got 2 PPCs, which is just amazing. You've got 4 M lasers, pretty much, you know, generally seen as the best weapon in BattleTech for tonnage and damage. 2 small lasers, just in case, and an SRM6. It's a monster. It's an absolute monster of a mech. Runs incredibly hot. That's its one big problem. But we'll talk about that in a second. But just look at this damage loadout. No rear weapons either, right? So you've got 30 points of damage potentially for its core weapons. You've got a further 20, so that brings you up to 50. And then, you know, you've got the SRM6 as well, so that usually does an average of 4 damage. And then you've got the 2S lasers, so you're just talking an insane amount of damage for a mech. In this era, want to be specific. As well, it's very unlikely you'll be able to do this, but if anyone starts trouble with you up close and personal, you do 19 points of damage on the kick. And then you can basically, you know, shoot with the rest of this weaponry up on close. And it's only your PPCs that have the minimum range penalties, so the AC-10 doesn't. Glorious, I think, is the word for this mech. Let's have a look at its real major advantage, though, which is its crit table. And this is the epitome of a well-designed mech. This is almost one of those mechs that you'd kind of see out of a custom mech on a custom-built mech on Mega Mech, where someone's just like absolutely specced it up to be incredible. It's kind of similar in this. So let's talk about ammo points first, because there are 3 points on here. There are 2 points of AC-10 ammo, which I like. I'd always opt for 2 points of AC-10 ammo over 1, because it keeps, with a mech like this as well, and a zombie mech, you just want it to be able to fire as much as possible. So I'd probably do single shots for the first 4 or 5, and then when I'm up close and my target modifiers aren't as bad against my opposition, so at that point I might be looking at rolling 7s, 8s. I'll then start to double shot with the AC-10, and if it jams, who cares? Because I've got 2 PPCs to back that up. The SRM as well, both well placed, both on the torsos, decent armor level torso as well, 30 points of armor. But what's amazing about this is just how difficult it is to get ammo shots. So you can see for the there are 2 points, there are 11 points altogether, including 2 heat sinks on the left torso, and then you've got the 2 points of ammo. So is that a? Yeah, it's unlikely that you'll get it. I want to say 1 in 6, but it's not, is it? Basically, it's not a death trap, is what I'm saying. It's not like there's only 1 heat sink and 2 points of AC-10 ammo on there. The math is easy on the SRM ammo. That's 1 in 12. So the chance of you getting the crit on the SRM ammo, you'd literally need a 4 and a 6 and then a 6. So it's highly unlikely that you'd roll that. Glorious, even down to its heat sink placements in the legs. So 4 heat sinks in the legs, amazing for reasons I just talked about with the previous Banshee. Just there's only one problem with this mech, and that's its heat management. But I don't even think that is necessarily a problem. So you can see it's got 21 heat sinks, which is amazing in Succession War era. Like that's, it's only things like the Grasshopper really that go like plus 20, and that's a great mech in its own right. With this mech though, you can see our heat is way in excess of that. I mean, the 2 PPCs alone basically cover like 97% of the heat sinks. But you just have to run this smart, right? So like, if you look at how these, it's almost like running 2 mechs. You've got 1 AC-10 2 PPC mech, and then you've got another mech which is 4 M lasers, 2 S lasers, and an SRM6. Now, you don't have to strictly adhere to that, but what I'm saying is, like at range, when you're getting in there originally, you want to be able to snipe the opposition. So that's the PPCs, the AC-10 are good at that. If you get anywhere within that medium range, then you can start thinking about using your M lasers. If you fire everything, if you alpha strike, I think you will, you'll do so much heat. And I think I worked it out previously. I think I'd worked it out that you do 21 heat, right? So if you alpha strike everything, it's super, super dangerous. I think that's right. Anyways, it might be less than that. I might have worked that out wrong. Either way, though, how to manage this, I think, if you are running in with it and firing. So let's say there is a case where you do a full alpha strike, which is a bit crazy because then you'll be using S lasers and the PPC together. Your heat's going to start getting into crazy territory. Now, once you got to be careful with heat, because once you get into that plus 19 level, it's not worth it because you get in potential ammo explosions. So don't do that, especially with a mech with this battle value. That's a really bad idea. So never ever go above 19. But the other ones, are just, there's a shutdown thing there, which is, I don't think the worst thing in the world, because if you got to that heat anyway, it's probably okay if you just shut down, especially with this armor level. Obviously, people will take cold shots against you, so you've got to be careful. And I think ideally, you want to be on. I never ever really in games go above 17 unless it's like a death or glory situation, or I've got to do it, otherwise I lose the game. But what I'd say is, if you get to plus 17 and you've got a mech with that level of armor, just stand still on the next turn, because when you are at plus 17, next turn those heat sinks will kick in and you'll go back to 0 heat again. So yeah, you can. I think the heat is manageable if you're smart and you do that, or if you treat it as like 2 different mechs, like with the medium long range weaponry and then the close range weaponry as well, with maybe like the AC-10 to supplement the and drop using the PPCs when you get too close. So yeah, honestly, this mech is just monstrous. It's actually quite annoying in this area. If you're playing like the Succession Wars era and someone brings this mech, it's just like the ultimate zombie mech. So you've got to, it's one of those mechs I'd certainly tell my opposition before I was playing it, because I'd be like, I'm going to brock the 3S because you bring that to a table, it's so crunchy. It's it's a really it's so good, this mech, that I think out of the entire last Kickstarter, I could be wrong here, I'm just going to say this though, I think it's the only mech that didn't get its original version. So we didn't get the 3E with a 1 PPC, the AC5 and the S laser. If you look at the model for the Banshee in the last Kickstarter, it is the 3S, which is a mech, like hundreds of years. The 3E was from, look how old that is. It's like one of the oldest mechs in BattleTech, right? So they didn't even bother using the kind of the base Banshee. They just were like, no, just upgrade it to the 3026 version. So that's how prestigious and fantastic this mech is. So there you are. There's three examples there of like Lyran and Kuritan ingenuity. So don't believe all the hype. They are not as stupid and ridiculous at doing this kind of stuff or these type of things than most people assume they are. Anyway, that was probably quite a long video, probably longer than I wanted to go, but I feel like I'm due a long video given that I won't be recording for weeks and weeks now. If anything happens on the house move, like it doesn't go through or I'm going to be delayed even more, I'll probably just put like a status note up on the YouTube channel. I think I've never done that before, but I think you can do it. Because I you know, there are people that I talk on here like quite a bit, like privately as well. So just, you know, you can hit me up if you've got my email address, or you can find me on Twitter or anything like that. I don't want to lose contact. I actually had this issue with someone on Twitter recently. I think over the old Elon Musk thing. Someone I really, really liked in the community and spoke to quite a bit, who just closed their Twitter account, and now I can't find them anymore. They're just gone. I was like, my God, just, you know, at least leave me a like return address so I can email you, because it was someone who's like on the YouTube scene as well, who I quite like, but they kind of operate on a channel on YouTube. They're part of another channel, if you know what I mean. So I don't know them specifically. So I don't want to do that. I will keep you informed. I'm not just going to disappear off the face of the earth, but all being well, this will be a 6-week hiatus. In that time period as well, I really want to start getting back into doing lore videos. I've not done anything like as much on the lore as I wanted to do. Not that this is necessarily a lore channel, but I like to discuss like theories and points of interest across the BattleTech universe within like its history and geopolitics and economy and things like that. So while I'm gone, I can actually use that as quite a good excuse to read up on lore. So it's good. I think I've been doing this channel now for just over a year. Is that right? Yeah. I think I started in like October, something like that, 2021. So yeah, like a year and a bit. And I think when you're doing like weekly videos, you constantly just like, what should I do this week? You kind of run out a bit of material, especially if you're busy. And then you just usually choose the cheap option or the easy option. So it's very easy to do a video on like the Kickstarter stuff, right? Because you just talk. But when you're doing like a lore video that you have to read about and research a bit, they usually it ups the quality a bit, and it puts a little bit more of the emphasis on me to kind of deliver that content. So hopefully I'll come back refreshed in a new studio, have a bit more like interesting content to talk about. We're also, we'll be in the midst of the Kickstarter at that point. So when I come back, I am giving consideration to upping the amount of videos that I do, like in the short run. Like I might do one commercial, one lore video a week, but we'll see. Like that's still, we'll see what happens with that. I suppose that makes up for the shortfall of me disappearing for a bit. But I do like that. I love doing the commercial videos as well. So I just don't want it to dominate the entire spectrum of what I'm talking about over the next 6 months, because I think that's it's too niche. I do like doing the lore videos. It's very interesting. Anyway, I'm signing out for now. So I will hopefully be back soon. Just in case you are wondering, Aaron, Tom and I recorded several jump points over January. So I think that keeps us in jump points up until March. So you'll still see me on Death from Above if you watch the jump point series. But this channel is going from, in about 30 seconds, we'll go into standby. So I'll thank you very much for watching, and I'll hopefully catch you again next time.